Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about Loud. They lost their best player in the offseason in Aspas for their VCT team, and there are questions about if this roster can repeat the success that it's had in the past. In case you don't know, Aspas is one of the best players in the entire world. I personally think he just might be the best player in the world. I know Demon 1 and Alphair are in those conversations, but I'll get to that topic a bit later. Either way, Aspas is in that conversation, and he was on the team Loud for the past 2 years. Unfortunately for this organization, they were not able to re-sign him in the offseason. His contract was up, and he leaves for the Latin America team known as Leviathan. So the question is, can this team, which has put up some very good and very impressive results in the past, can they repeat that same success without their best player? Now they signed a player known as QCK, and the rest of the roster, their contracts were up and they did re-sign all of them. Their head coach Fraud did leave for MIBR, so another Brazilian team, and Pew, if that's how you say it, I apologize if I'm wrong, he is the new head coach. So we have a coaching change, we have the best player leaving this organization. That doesn't exactly bode well for your future success. Granted, this team has had a coaching change before. After the 2022 season, their coach Bazooka, he was known as a very good coach. He helped them win a world championship at Champions, and then the org let him go, as well as losing players Pancata and Saucy to Sentinels in the offseason. So they had a lot of change that year, and then they still put up very good results. So this is a team that isn't new to drastic changes being made. But those drastic changes weren't Aspas. Aspas was fantastic for them over the past 2 seasons. He's explosive, he's smart, he's really, really good, he has insane aim, he can play Jet and Raze very well, an extremely talented duelist player. And with him, they did very well. Looking right down below me at the results over the past 2 years, in 2022, Loud burst onto the scene very impressively. They did place second at Rank Vic, the first international tournament of that year. They placed second. They did lose to an Optic roster that was just on a roll that tournament, but they still made it to a grand finals and they did perform well. They just couldn't get it done. Then they got hit with the second place curse at Copenhagen, placing 11th to 12th, losing to Optic again. Earlier in the tournament this time in group stages, this would not be the last time the second place curse hits this team. Then Champions 2022, they get their revenge on Optic and they place first. They win that whole tournament, ending the season very, very well. And then, as I said, the coaching change happens. Pancata and Saucy leave. They get some new players. Can this team perform as well, losing those 2 talented players? The answer is yes. On home turf in Sao Paulo, they get to grand finals of Lock-In Tournament, the very first tournament of the new franchise version of the VCT, and they get second. They almost reverse sweep Fnatic. It was an extremely insane grand final. I don't know how many grand finals we're going to see like that, but that was an extremely impressive match from Loud. They just couldn't get past the finish line, unfortunately. While I was kind of rooting for Fnatic in that match, it would have been nice to see Loud win on home turf. That crowd was behind them the entire tournament. Then we move on to the Americas regular season, and they placed first. They did win in the playoff stage. They were first going into playoffs anyway, and they just kind of rolled through the rest of the Americas teams. So it looks like, hey, they're still good. They're on a roll. They're going into Tokyo. Hey, second place curse, who cares? Well, as I said earlier, it hit them again. I actually made a video talking about Loud and the second place curse, saying, I think if there's any team that can overcome it, they've been hit by it before. I do think that Loud could overcome it. And then they lost, didn't win a single match. I don't even think they won a map. They did place 7th to 8th in that tournament. It was a very, very disappointing performance from Loud there. I think everybody was shocked. I know the second place curse is a thing, at least not anymore. EG broke it. But we'll see if second place teams continue to lose in the next tournament, because EG, I mean, who knows, maybe they're the only team to end up breaking it. But it was an extremely, extremely surprising result, in my opinion. And then we get to Champs 2023. Now, when I was making videos about Champions 2023, I heard a lot of people saying that Loud wasn't going to be able to perform well, that Loud was washed, that they weren't looking as good. They were a bit shaky in group stage. They just don't look like a team that's going to win the tournament. Granted, they did it, but honestly, for some reason, a lot of teams, or a lot of people, were doubting this team, and then they end up getting third. It's still an extremely impressive result. They beat Fnatic early on and then beat them again, and just barely lost to Evil Geniuses. I do not know why so many people were doubting them going into playoffs. They performed extremely well. But unfortunately, they couldn't get it done. It was kind of a last run with this group kind of feel to it, knowing Aspas was probably going to leave by the end of the year and the rest of the players' contracts up in the air. So they really wanted to get one more with that core. Unfortunately, they couldn't get it done and they placed third. So to truly realize the impact of losing Aspas and seeing what potentially could fill the hole that he's going to leave, we're going to be looking at the 2023 VCT stats from all of these players, including QCK. First off, looking at the man of the hour, Aspas. He had 1,402 kills, 1,076 deaths, 275 assists. That is a KD ratio of 1.30. I don't know if that's the best over the entire VCT season last season, because I know, at least in terms of that amount of maps played or a lot amount of maps played, there may be players that didn't play a lot of maps because their team didn't go very far that might have like a 1.4 or 1.5 or something. But usually when a player is playing this many maps, this many games, their KD ratio evens out a bit, even if they're getting a lot of kills. You know, we'll see them get more of a 110 range if they're playing Jet or Raze. Not for Aspas, 1.30. That is insane. He had nearly 400 more kills than he had deaths. This guy just didn't die. He just got kills. It's absolutely bonkers. He played Jet and Raze during the season, and he was extremely effective in both those roles. And with him on Leviathan, I'll make a video about that team at a different date. I do have questions about that roster, but I think he's going to easily be able to keep up. Maybe not these numbers, but he's going to be an absolute dream for that team. So when you're losing that many kills, that much impact, how do you replace it? Sadak, in the offseason, when the team picked up QCK, he said, we're not going to try to replace Aspas because we can't. We're just going to try to get a player, or try to get players that fit our system, that fit our team. And I think that's very smart of him, as well as the rest of the management group at Loud. While QCK does have some Jet experience, it is his most played character on VLR. In terms of international success with the character, there isn't really a lot of it. So maybe they're hoping that, you know, he's a player that can be a bit versatile with his roles, but can also fill that Jet role if it's needed. But he hasn't played Jet professionally in a while now. He didn't play it last year during the 2023 season, so can he at least fill that hole a little bit, even though he hasn't played a lot of that character, at least professionally, in a while? Moving on to Les, who I think it's pretty safe to say that with Aspas gone, Les is now their best player. I don't think that's a controversial statement. Maybe you could say Sadak is the best player now because he's a really good IGL, but his numbers do not look very good, but that's no surprise to anybody who knows how he plays. But in terms of just impact on the battlefield, I do think Les now takes that title as the best player on Loud. During the VCT 2023 season, he had 1,308 kills, 1,059 deaths, 358 assists for a KD ratio of 1.23. He only played two characters for the season, Viper and Killjoy, and he's very good on both of them. He really likes those two characters. He can play smokes when he needed, and he can play Sentinels when he needed. That's all you really need from a player. Moving on to Kawazine, he had 1,168 kills, 1,118 deaths, 632 assists for a KD ratio of 1.04. He played Sky, Breach, Sova, Fade, your initiator player. He's a very good initiator player. I think it's a very good decision for Loud to keep him on, because I don't know if you're going to get another player that can replace that kind of role, or at least to the same effect. He was very effective last year, third on the team on kills. He was very good, and I think that's a very good decision to keep him on. Moving on to Tui's, again, I hope I'm saying that right. Gamer tags are hard to say. He had 978 kills, 1,038 deaths, 697 assists for a KD ratio of 0.94. He was your smokes player. He played Harbor, Brim, Astra, and Omen. So versatility with the kinds of smokes characters there, playing 4 different kinds. That's a very important part of that role, is are you able to play different characters on different maps, because some may be more effective on others. Moving on to Sadak, he also had 978 kills, same as Tui's, 1,134 deaths, 654 assists for a KD ratio of 0.86. Sadak played a lot of characters. He played Raze, KJ, Viper, KO. He's just the flex guy. He'll play wherever you need him to. He also played Chamber, but it was only one map, and it was during Grand Finals versus Energy in the Americas regular season playoffs. That was weird, but sure. I mean, I didn't write it down because it was only that one map. But that was a very weird thing. Again, it just shows he's willing to play any character. It doesn't matter. He just wants to fit what the team needs. He's there to fill that hole and then be your IGL. I think that's a very good thing to have in an IGL, is versatility. Is he going to bank you a lot of kills? Is he always going to be the most effective player at whatever character he's playing? Probably not, but he's a very good IGL. He is a very good leader within that team. That's where your value is. And then moving on to the player that they picked up in the offseason, QCK. So he was on Furia. He didn't play in every event. He did not play in the last chance qualifiers. So his stats have a lot less numbers than the other players on this team, but we're going to go through them anyway. He had 490 kills, 526 deaths, 172 assists for a KD ratio of 0.93. He played Viper, Killjoy, Harbor, and Cypher. So he played some smokes, a little bit of Sentinel there. I'm sure he's a good player. I'm sure he was effective on Furia. I didn't pay too much attention to him during the offseason. If Sadak and the coaches at Loud think that he fits their system, then so be it. I think that's a good decision. My question is, now you don't really have a player that can play that Jett and Raze role. Obviously, Jett has now been nerfed, but Raze is still going to be an effective duelist character. And looking at the characters that all of these other players have played, you're not seeing a lot of duelists. That's because Aspas was able to fill that void. So you really didn't need to run a lot of, two duelist comps or anything like that, because Aspas is going to get you probably more than 2 times the amount of kills as any other duelist player. So I think it's still very important to have a player that can fill that role. Obviously, Sadak talking about not just trying to replace Aspas, which is another good duelist player, but at the same time, you still need a duelist player. Like, you still need duelists to be there. I know some teams play with no duelists, and maybe Loud ends up being one of those teams, and I just question how effective that can be, because having a duelist player that could frag out, that can take over maps, that can just really take over a match, they're going to be missing that now with Aspas. He was able to do that, and very consistently so. So that's really quite a hole to fill. And again, you're not going to find a player like Aspas out there. It's just not there. He's a very good player. He's above the rest. So I understand what they're thinking with the QCK signing, but I also kind of see him as a player that kind of looks like he should be an extra man on a team like this. I don't know if his skill level is really going to be up to the standard that this team is looking for. If the team thinks that he fits their systems, I will believe that until that is proven otherwise, and we'll see how it goes during the VCT 2024 season. But I do think they're probably going to end up picking up a extra player, and maybe that player is capable of playing a duelist role. We will see. I think that would probably be smart because they are missing an extra man right now. I don't think they had one last year, so it's not something that they're not used to. But you should have an extra man just to have something there in case something goes wrong or in case the team composition needs to switch up, but we will see. Overall, what is my opinion? Do I think Loud can still be a dominant team? Yes, I absolutely do. I do think they're going to be top 3 in the Americas, either at the kickoff tournament or during the regular season. They are going to be dominant. This is still the same roster. This is still the same roster that lost 2 players in Bekan and Sassy, that when that happened, a lot of people thought that they were going to fall off, that, oh, they're losing these 2-star players. And then those 2 players had a horrible season on Sentinels, while Loud did very good and qualified for every international tournament that year, as well as go to grand finals in the very next tournament with that new roster. So I do think that this is a team that can absolutely push through adversity, but it is going to be tough to fill the hole that Aspas fills. Again, I do think they're going to get good results, but winning an international tournament, I don't know if I see it without Aspas. I think they can get close. I think they can qualify for all the tournaments. Looking at the Americas, there's definitely some holes there. So I can absolutely see Loud pushing through that spot and being able to be a top team. But once you get to the Masters, the Champions, are they going to be able to beat the other top teams in the world? Without Aspas, I don't know if it's possible, but we will see once the season starts in February. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think Loud are going to be able to repeat some of the results that they've had over the past 2 years without their best player? Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.